Morning guys, welcome back to another video. Now, I thought we would do something a little bit different this week. So I have now been traveling all over Australia all by myself for well over 2 years. It's crazy to think that it's been that long, but in that time, my expenses and my income have changed a lot. So I feel like I'm well equipped to be able to give a little bit of advice here. So I thought today we would go through exactly that because I get so many questions going over, how I earn money on the road and then of course what I'm spending, because I think it's actually a lot more than what people think that it is, even if you don't have any huge bills. So we're going to go through all of that today. I've got my coffee. I'm going to make some breakfast, get the laptop out, and then we're going to go through all of the stats. So let's get into it. So for breakfast, I've been really wanting to make this thing called shakshuka. It is really simple, but it's pretty much just like a tomato base, and then you crack your eggs into it and then you eat it all with like toasted bread, which I'm so excited for. So in a pan, I'm going to throw in my onion and my capsicum that I've already diced up. Ideally, you would be adding in like diced garlic, but I just don't have any on hand. So you guys can add that in yourself. So I've let that capsicum and onion cook down for just a couple of minutes. We're going to add in some paprika, some cumin. Now, if you've got chili flakes, I would add those in. I have got chili oil, so I'm just going to pop that in. And then we're just going to let that become fragrant, maybe like a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to add in a tin of diced tomatoes. Going to make 2 little wells, which we're going to crack our eggs into. So we just want to cook this for 1 minute uncovered and then 2 minutes covered. And just like that, she is done. So we're going to top this with some parsley as well. So let's get into it. Now, I do have to preface before we jump into this. So the last 6 months of my travels, I have driven a significant amount of kilometers. So my fuel is significantly higher than I think it would ever be for most people. Like I literally in the last 6 months, I've driven from Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, into the Northern Territory and then back to Queensland, which is insane for that shorter distance time. But look, it is what it is, and that is the budget we're going through. So in the last 6 months on fuel alone, I have spent $6,254, which averages at $240 per week, which like I said, like that is quite a lot. My BT50 is a diesel. When you're starting to go through more of those remote areas of Australia as well, like there was fuel stops that were like $3.20 per litre. So factoring in the kilometers, but then also like the more remote spots mean a lot more expensive fuel. So that's something to take into consideration when you're traveling. Then from there, camping is something that I feel like I can definitely scrape in on the lower side of things. Although I can't stealth camp, like I'm not in a van, I'm still very resourceful when it comes to finding free camping, which has been amazing. So I have spent a total of $1,344, averaging at $51 per week in camping, which is amazing. So there are times like now where I'm in this beautiful hip camp, but even this one is only $23 per night. So it's really just sort of balancing up. If you're paying for one, is it worthwhile? Because I'm fully set up for off-grid living, I don't have to go to a caravan park at all. Yes, I only have the means to have cold showers. So if I want to have a hot shower, I can go to a caravan park, but typically I'll just go to the gym, or local pools will have hot showers. So there's always ways around it. I do try to avoid built up caravan parks as much as I can. So yeah, $51 per week, not mad at that at all. Now food, I love food. I love cooking, and this is definitely something that I don't really skimp out on groceries at all. However, over 6 months, I spent a total of $2,845 on groceries, which averages at $109 per week. So once again, I feel like that is completely reasonable. On the flip side of that, in the last 6 months, I've actually been very social. So between Exmouth, where I did a freediving retreat, and then in Broome, I caught up with a lot of friends in that area. So I was eating out a lot as well. So between bars and restaurants, still quite good. I spent a total of $357, so average of about $13 per week. Cafes and takeaway. Now this is where this probably does fall into bars and restaurants a little bit. It's hard to sort of differentiate this when I was going through everything. But between coffee and takeaway, I've listed it here as $1,421. Even though I have a coffee machine, I still buy a lot of coffee. And I feel like for me, coffee is quite a social thing. So if I'm catching up with people, it's usually going for a coffee or something like that. So yeah, between coffee, takeaway, bars and restaurants, it's still under $2,000 over 6 months. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now, alcohol was $114. So look, I'm very lucky in the sense that I do get gifted collaborations for wine, which I'm very grateful for. And I'm actually not a big drinker anyway. Like outside of just pairing wine with food, I typically don't drink a lot. So yeah, $114 that I've spent personally on alcohol over 6 months. Now, the next big expenses, so I sort of touched on before when I was talking about caravan park. So gym membership. So yes, I do utilize gym memberships where possible, not only for showers, but also just for actually exercising and keeping that sort of like mental stimulation there. I'm a very active person. So in 6 months on gym memberships, I spent a total of $421.33. This not only includes my Anytime Fitness membership, but when you go to some of those remote locations, there might be a gym there, but they don't have like the specific chain that you're, I guess, associated with. So there were periods where I would just pay for casual sessions to gyms as well. So that's all equated into that. Then Starlink and my phone. Because I will dabble into a little bit more about work as well, but I have been working full-time on the road for the last 2 years, so internet has been a huge necessity for me. So I've got a Starlink Mini. I previously had like the full-size Starlink, but I just didn't feel like it was necessary. So for the Starlink Mini, plus I have got my Telstra plan as well, I have spent a total of $1,682. So that's an average of $64 per week for internet and phone, which you may find that you don't need that much internet. You might be happy to hotspot from your phone when you're in reception pockets, but for the remote travel I absolutely need Starlink. So Starlink is around $180 per month, but you can pause the plan whenever you need to. You can downgrade the plan. I think there's like an $80 option. So it sort of just bases itself off of your needs. So yeah, that was definitely a high cost. Outside of that, I think that's, oh yes, car maintenance and park fees. So car maintenance, because I drive so many kilometers, I did have my car serviced twice in that period. Plus, not only that, just like, general top-ups of oil if I need to, or, washing my car, that sort of stuff. I spent a total of $1,055, which not terrible for 6 months. And then park fees and experiences. So within South Australia, New South Wales, and actually WA and Northern Territory, most places, now that I'm thinking about it, they do require you to have park fees. So for example, New South Wales, Western Australia, Northern Territory, you had to actually have a pass to get into all of the national parks. Same with South Australia. There's some areas where you pay for camping, but then you also had to pay for like day passes into certain areas as well. So all of that combined and, general experiences, I did not include my freediving retreat into this because that was a completely personal choice for that. So I spent a total of $832 in park fees and experiences over that 6 month period. But that's pretty much a summary of everything that I have spent in 6 months. So it's a total of $16,366 in 6 months. So that averages at about $629 per week, which I feel like for some people that can be quite expensive, especially if you are choosing to travel on savings. And I do want to really preface, I have always had income coming in throughout my travels. So I've never really had to stress about income coming in. I've been able to live incredibly comfortable, and if I want to spend a little bit more or, splash out a little bit more in certain areas, I can do that. So that's why you can obviously pick and decide what's going to be better for your travels. If you want to do it on a budget, or if you want to just like live it up a little bit more, that's where it's a very personal experience. But as far as how I've earned money, this has really changed over 2 years. I'm very fortunate that in the 2 years that I've traveled, I have actually worked 3 different jobs, and all of them I've been able to work completely remote. Now, up until recently, I was actually working completely full time, which is crazy because like trying to work full time, travel full time, create the content that I'm putting out on a weekly basis, like it is a lot, but I was just so determined to make it work. So I just absolutely hustled. However, as of recently, I no longer work full time, which is so exciting. Although I wished that content creation was a full-time income, I'm sure it'll happen one day. I'm still not quite there. So at the moment, my income streams will be typically YouTube. So that's a really good source of income. I've got my Patreon, which I earn a little bit of income from. I do content creation, so like UGC type content, as well as content that I'll post to my personal page, which I earn income through. And then I also do still dabble in the sales space where I work on more of like a commission base. So that's a really good just like top up at the moment, and it's really good because it's really flexible hours. I can pretty much work when I want to work, but that's sort of the ways that I earn money. I am also a qualified personal trainer and Pilates instructor, so wherever I can, which I haven't really done in a little while, I do pick up classes that I can teach and cover and earn an income that way. So there's definitely a lot of ways that you can earn money on the road, and it really just comes down to like your skill set, but there is just so much out there. Like you can go and work on, stations, or you can go and do like fruit picking. Like there's so much out there, but if you've got skills that allow you to travel, like nurses and teachers and like, any trade, like you are just in luck. So it's not impossible to travel and work full time. Would I recommend it? Absolutely not, because you get really selfish with your time, and like the more you travel, the more time you want to be able to experience literally everything. So I hope this has been helpful. As I said, the last 6 months have been pretty crazy in regards to my personal travel and how far I've driven. So I'll definitely have to do an updated one soon. But like I said, hopefully you guys got some tips out of it, and I will see you guys all in the next video.